joining us today. This is a flash training, which means it's just a little bit of the full training we have to offer, but I am excited to share this content with you. I think it's something valuable that Libraries for Digital Equity has to offer, and we'll be out of here in 5 minutes, maybe 10. So we're talking about this program overall is titled Digital Inclusion, the New Core Service. This little bit specifically, we're talking about how it's core to your mission. So let's go through our agenda real quick. Typically, we are going to have, come on, my slides aren't advancing. There we go. Now, typically, you don't want to just hear me talk big ideas. We want to talk about actually making a plan for changing something that has, at this point, been an accidental service into a core service, an essential part of what you're doing in the library. So typically, we would go through this 4-step process. We'd look at your own realm of influence. We'd figure out, how you can make digital inclusion core to your services. But today, since this is a flash training, we are only talking about the big ideas. So I want to tell you about this guy. Now, this is a stock photo, but I'm telling you about a real person. So despite living in a very dense urban area, he's socially isolated. You can see he's an older gentleman. He's a dialysis patient, so for his health, he has to avoid crowds, large gatherings. That's tough. Maybe mid-COVID, that was easier with masks and people not gathering, but now there's an assumption that everyone can do that again. So that whole portion of society is off limits to him. He also used to be able to use the computers and the Wi-Fi at the library, but again, during COVID, when everything was shut down, he couldn't. And even after then, his condition got more serious and he couldn't be in a public space like that. So now he doesn't have that connectivity option. And like a lot of people on a fixed income, he's not comfortable trying something brand new, like especially something expensive, like subscribing to home internet for the first time, and that's not something that he's done before. Now, he's learning English. He's working on it. But in the meantime, a lot of the resources that are available to other folks, other people whose situation might look like his, those aren't accessible to him because of that language barrier. So we can probably all think of library patrons, people that we've worked with, maybe somebody on the other side of the desk right now while you're, hitting pause on this training. We can probably think of, patrons like this. This is a common story. It's not unique at all. Actually, 1 in 5 households doesn't have home internet. That's across the whole U.S. 1 in 5 households does not have home internet. Now, you might say, oh, that's no big deal. It's okay not to have home internet because you have a smartphone. Well, not 15% of low-income folks. For 15% of people under the federal poverty line or near the federal poverty line, they do not have a smartphone either. And so that connectivity that we take for granted is not available there either. And this is an interesting one. Looking at jobs that were posted over a 6-month period, the National Skills Coalition found that 92% of them required some level of digital skills. That's pretty significant. Of all those jobs posted, of everything available, there's this assumption that anybody applying for it is going to have those digital skills. If you're one of the folks that's looking for a job and you don't have these digital skills, or you need connectivity and you don't have internet at home, or you don't have a smartphone, you're looking at a gap like this. The information age offers, an unprecedented amount of opportunity. Anytime in your life, you can tackle new learning opportunities, you can change careers, you can, connect with a supportive community, maybe for the first time. You can really take charge of your life. But the opportunity that the digital age offers can only help the people that have access to it. So that gap between opportunity and access is what we call the digital divide. That is what digital inclusion is trying to answer. So let's agree on some definitions here, just kind of as a baseline. So digital inclusion is the work. That's us pushing the lever. Digital equity is the goal. That's what we're pushing towards. Digital equity means that everybody has the tools they need to participate fully in our information age. Now, we still have a long way to go before we achieve real digital equity. And so that's why we're talking about the work today and how this work, digital inclusion, fits in our missions. So I think an important question here is, why is this a library issue? Well, the answer is libraries have been doing this work for decades. I mean, we are all about providing our patrons with critical information and resources. So we've been doing things like, providing computers since the 90s, helping people print, offering Wi-Fi. That's been important as more and more of the world moves online. But now, hardly any public services, even paid amenities, don't require some level of connectivity. Even if it's just, scanning a QR code to view a restaurant menu. Libraries are always asked about tax forms. And these days, we're not even getting the printed tax forms anymore. We're not handing those out because everything's online. So this work of closing the digital divide exists everywhere in our services accidentally. I mean, it's part of everything we're doing. The most important step that we can make now is to move it from an accidental service into a core service. So this next quote is from a librarian, someone working in a public library. In the early COVID days, she launched a hotspot lending program at her library. This was new to her library at the time. And when I asked her to reflect on it, this is what she told me. She said, if the pandemic has proved anything, it's that access to digital information is so important to democracy, freedom of information, and education. Digital inclusion programs should be at the forefront of every municipality, library, or educational institution. I love that. And she's right. Now, fortunately for this guy that I mentioned earlier, his library did see digital inclusion as one of their core services, as core to their mission. He found help accessing resources that were appropriate for his literacy level, and he found help connecting with services that he was eligible for to help him stay connected. Things that made internet actually no cost for him and low cost for many households. He was able to get some skills using devices. Anyway, after getting some help, extended help from the library, he gave this great quote, and I want to read it to you. It makes me so happy. He said, I watched a movie out of our church library. I cleared all my emails. I opened a book from Stephen King. I have done other things. It feels like, where else can I go today? I am going to make a list of all the things I can do. You will be surprised. I went from being trapped to exploring. My quality of life is so much better. I smile. I just love that. That is the kind of result that we want everyone to associate with their library, with library services. So, typically at this point, we would dive into our 4-step process. This is, how we're going to guide you through designing future-focused library services with plans that are realistic, but still allowing ourselves to, be ambitious, to dream big, to do some blue sky thinking, and to say, well, but what if we could change everything? So, I think we're gonna end this flash training now. I thank you for attending this. You're welcome to use these 4 steps, use the other resources that are on our website, utilize this process, and of course we're available if you ever want to bring us in for a workshop and work through this together. We can do one-on-one, work through that process of saying, how do we take this accidental service that we're already doing, identify how it fits in with our mission, our library's existing mission, and then really highlight it, hold it up as a core service.